recently passed. This last week, we've also seen Lorenzo Salgado Araujo fatally shot by an ICE agent during an enforcement operation in Houston. Earlier this week, Juan Sebastian Guerrero was killed in another fatal ICE-involved shooting in Maine. I'm not here to debate immigration policy or how immigration enforcement has been conducted by this administration. My questions are specific to law enforcement policy and best practices. Given that these are officer-involved shootings, federal officer-involved shootings, what role should the Department of Justice play in ensuring independent and transparent review and investigations over these incidents?
It depends on the agency that the law enforcement officer was a member of. So if it's a FBI agent as opposed to an ICE agent or an HSI agent. And the role that we should play depends. It depends on the conduct. Normally, each agency has their own procedures for investigating any type of shooting. And it usually involves their inspector general or an internal office. At some point along the way, the DOJ
I don't want to cut you off too quickly here,
Sure.
but I want to come back to that point.
Sure.
But first ask, should state and local law enforcement be involved in ensuring that there's an independent investigation of these incidents?
I mean, it depends. I think there's a lot of times when state and locals should definitely be involved, but I don't think unequivocally state and local have to be involved for independence. Of course not.
Here's the bottom line why I'm asking these two questions. Because in prior incidents, referenced Minnesota earlier in your testimony, Alex Preddy and Renee Good were also fatally shot. And as far as we can tell, it's been months and months, there's been no justice in these cases. As far as I can tell, those officers were not fired. They have not faced any charges. So it does undermine any confidence anybody should have in the Department of Homeland Security's ability, through the Inspector General or otherwise, to investigate its own. So I come back to the question, what should the role of the Department of Justice be when there's federally officer-involved shootings?
Well, I very much disagree with the statement you just made. The mere passage of time between January and today doesn't mean there's no justice. It doesn't mean that so these investigations do take time. And as Senator Klobuchar talked about, and it's her state, we meaning the federal government, have worked with the state and locals in that case.
Move on to other issues, but here's what I see. I mean, no justice, clear justice, and I get investigations take time, but no justice. In those two cases, what we have seen is people continuing to die, not just in detention facilities, but on the streets of America. Next topic, coming back to January 6th. There have been several of my colleagues who have asked about the quote-unquote slush fund. Do you personally believe that someone who forcibly entered the U.S. Capitol and assaulted law enforcement should be rewarded with taxpayer money? Yes or no?
I can't answer it yes or no, but if you want the answer, I think that the fund that doesn't exist anymore set up parameters where, no, somebody that you just described would likely not recover funds.
Which brings me to my other point, because several members have asked, and I know Senator Till is specifically focused on the weaponization slush fund and language versus declarations versus appropriations bills on how to undo this. I also need to be clear that January 6ers should not be able to seek payouts from other sources, including the Federal Tort Claims Act. Do you commit to vigorously defending taxpayer money from being paid out to January 6 riders, those who were convicted of their involvement with January 6, regardless of the source of funding from the Department of Justice?
You're talking about a statute that exists and allows anybody to seek to file a suit against the United States. So I can tell you we always vigorously defend our cases, but I can't speak to a particular case.
Well, we know this is a hypothetical. There's been at least 4 letters that I've signed on to, along with Senators Durbin, Klobuchar, and Whitehouse, who asked earlier about the status of January 6 riders seeking payouts from the department. When can we expect responses to those letters?
When you say status, you mean those that have filed cases in court? I don't know what that means.
The status of their request for payouts being reviewed, approved, or not.
I think anybody, including January 6 defendants, can file a claim under the Federal Tort Claims Act, and I think some of them have. Those cases are ongoing. They're publicly available on ECF.
And I know some people would suggest, well, they've all been pardoned for there are crimes on January 6th, and so this may be fair game. Are you aware that at least 97 January 6ers have been accused of new crimes since January 6, 2021, including violent crimes, by the way, child molestation, etc.? That sounds like the worst of the worst to me.
If anybody commits a crime, they should be investigated, arrested, and prosecuted. So if you're talking about people that committed federal crimes and they happen to have been pardoned before, they should be arrested and prosecuted. Yes.
Well, I look forward to that as well, and we'll follow up in questions for the record. Mr. Blanche, during our courtesy meeting a few weeks ago, you said that, quote, independence of the department was a misnomer in the context of the Department of Justice because the president sets policies and priorities, and your view, the Department of Justice must enforce the law in a way that carries out the president's goals. Do you recall that conversation?
Yeah, I definitely did not say that, but nice try.
No, that's exactly what I recall from our conversation. So I want to be on the record saying
Well, I'm
I
happy
disagree.
to tell you what I said to help your recollection.
So the Department of Justice should be independent or not?
I think as I said earlier, the Department of Justice is under the executive branch. If confirmed, I will be member of the president's cabinet. So absolutely, my obligation is the American people and the rule of law.
So we'll
but
talk
that
about
being said, I am a member of the cabinet of the president of the United States.
We'll talk about the if confirmed in a minute, but let me also point out the Department of Justice's own website states right on the homepage that what the department's core missions is independence and impartiality. So let me bring a specific example. Last fall, President Trump issued a statement for National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, where he said, quote, I'm steadfastly devoted to uplifting survivors of domestic violence and ensuring they know they are never alone and that help and support are always within reach, end quote. Sounds like a statement that we'd all agree with. But the Office of Violence Against Women is a vital component of the Department of Justice that administers grants to organizations that provide services for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking. It provides critical resources to organizations that support victims. Yes or no? Are you aware that the office is substantially delayed in notifying grant recipients of awards that were intended to begin October 1st of last year?
We are rolling grants out on a rolling basis, and we continue to do so. We will continue to do so. We didn't have the grants authorized till January of this year.
And it's now July. It's been 6 months. Next, yes or no question. Are you aware that as a result of the delays, many organizations have been forced to lay off staff and reduce services for domestic violence victims? Yes or no?
I am not aware of that, no.
Okay. We're happy to provide you information and cases. Are you aware that many notices of funding opportunities for the fiscal year 26 have yet to be posted for grants that are supposed to begin on October 1st of this year?
I know that we are posting, that we are caught up from the last fiscal year. The budget wasn't approved until January of this year. We had to finish last year's first. We're putting them out every single day.
Again, it's been 6 months. Are you aware that multiple congressional offices from both sides of the aisle, this is not partisan, on a bipartisan basis have reached out to the office about delays and have not been given any concrete timeline despite the real and substantial impact that these delays are having on domestic violence services?
That's not true. I've testified publicly about it on multiple occasions, and we have given a timeline. I just gave you the timeline today, which is that we're doing it every day on a rolling basis. We're caught up to last year's, and we're moving forward, and we anticipate having all of them done by the end of this fiscal year.
Every other state, for that matter, can know when to expect their funding. I know my time is running out. Let me just end with this. Mr. Blanche, it's the duty of the Attorney General of the United States to, quote, operate free from partisan consideration and protect citizens' rights to equal justice. But what I've heard today fails to inspire much confidence in your ability to carry out that duty or to put federal law before loyalty to the president. I add to that facts from the judiciary. District courts in 31 cases have recognized that the administration has violated court rulings. The Solicitor General refuses to rule out refusing to abide by court rulings circuit court rulings that they disagree with. In immigration cases alone, the administration has admitted violating court orders in the District of New Jersey alone more than 50 times. This does not sound like a Department of justice. The American people deserve better. And a lot of nominees come before us and say, well, if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed, then this or that. I'm not buying that. I know you're not confirmed for the top spot. You're acting in the top spot. You were the number 2 from nearly the beginning of the term. Yes, a lot of this accountability falls on your shoulders. The American people deserve an attorney general who put the Constitution above political retribution.
Blanche, who previously served as President Donald Trump's personal defense attorney, moved into the acting attorney general position after Pam Bondi departed in early April. His close connection to the president has fueled ongoing discussions about whether the Department of Justice can maintain true separation from White House priorities. During the hearing, senators pressed him on everything from high-stakes decisions to everyday operations. But Padilla's line of questioning stood out for its focus on real-world incidents and their broader implications. Many online commentators noted the exchange highlighted tensions that go beyond party lines, with some praising the senator for zeroing in on transparency, while others saw it as political theater. One area that drew immediate attention involved federal officer-involved incidents. Padilla referenced recent cases, including the fatal shooting of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo during an enforcement operation in Houston and another involving Juan Sebastian Guerrero in Maine. He asked directly about the Department of Justice's role in reviewing these events to ensure independent and open processes. Blanche responded by explaining that procedures often start within the agencies themselves, such as through inspectors general, and that involvement from state or local authorities isn't always required for fairness. The senator pushed back, pointing to past examples where months had passed without visible outcomes, raising concerns about public trust in self-investigations by agencies like Homeland Security. This part of the discussion brought up important points about law enforcement best practices without debating broader immigration policies. Padilla emphasized that his interests centered on consistent standards for accountability when federal agents are involved. Reports from the incidents have circulated widely, with family members and local leaders calling for clearer answers. Blanche noted that investigations naturally take time and cited coordination with state officials in similar matters, pushing against the idea that delays automatically mean a lack of progress. The exchange left many wondering how the department balances swift action with thorough reviews, especially when lives are impacted on the streets or in operations. Transitioning to another hot topic, the conversation shifted toward financial settlements and funds tied to perceived past grievances. Padilla inquired about a now-dropped initiative linked to a litigation deal over leaked tax returns, which had aimed to compensate individuals who felt unfairly targeted. The senator wanted clarity on whether those who enter the Capitol on January 6th and face charges for assaulting officers should access taxpayer resources. Blanche indicated that parameters of the fund, before its end, would likely exclude such cases, and he committed to defending government funds vigorously through existing legal channels like the Federal Tort Claims Act. He acknowledged that claims can be filed but stressed ongoing court reviews for any payouts. Speculation has swirled around these matters, with some reports suggesting attempts to address what certain allies viewed as politicized actions from previous years. However, strong bipartisan pushback led to the fund's termination. Padilla referenced letters sent by multiple senators seeking updates on any January 6th related requests, pressing for timelines on responses. Blanche pointed to public court records as the place for details, noting that pardons don't shield new offenses. He agreed that anyone committing fresh crimes, even after prior clemency, deserves full investigation and prosecution. This segment revealed the tricky balance between addressing past disputes and protecting public resources, keeping viewers engaged as new layers of the story unfolded. What added even more intrigue was the direct challenge on the department's independence. Padilla recalled a prior conversation where he said Blanche described full separation as something of a misconception, given the executive branch structure. Blanche disputed the exact wording, but affirmed his role as part of the president's cabinet, while pledging commitment to the rule of law and service to the American people. The senator highlighted the department's own public statements, emphasizing impartiality, and brought up a presidential proclamation on domestic violence awareness that aligned with shared goals. Yet questions arose about delays in grant notifications for programs supporting survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and related issues through the Office on Violence Against Women. Organizations relying on these funds have reportedly faced staffing reductions and service cuts due to postponed awards originally slated for the previous fall. Blanche explained the rollout as occurring on a rolling basis after budget approvals came later than expected, with efforts continuing daily to catch up. He pushed back on claims of unawareness regarding specific impacts, offering to review provided information. Multiple offices from both parties had reportedly reached out about timelines, underscoring the real effects on communities. This discussion painted a picture of operational challenges amid shifting priorities, leaving audiences to consider how funding delays influence on the ground support for those in need. Delving deeper into recent developments, attention turned to the handling of sensitive files from long-standing investigations. Rumors have circulated about the department's approach to releasing documents connected to high-profile cases, with some accounts claiming uneven transparency or concerns from involved parties. It's been said that certain meetings with advocates felt dismissive, though official responses emphasize the massive effort required to review vast amounts of material. Reports suggest these matters have drawn ethics complaints and calls for more oversight, framing ongoing debates about whether decisions prioritize certain outcomes. Neutral observers note that while details remain under discussion, the buzz online reflects public interest in ensuring fairness across all cases, regardless of who is involved. Additional layers emerged around personnel decisions and external critiques. A former department attorney reportedly testified about disagreements leading to her departure, tying into larger questions of influence on specific matters like rights restoration requests. Ethics filings from judges and advocacy groups have questioned impartiality in select instances, though the department has dismissed many as politically motivated. Court records in various suits have included strong language about settlements, with judges flagging potential issues for further review. These elements add complexity, as supporters argue the focus remains on enforcing laws and tackling fraud, while critics worry about consistent application regardless of connections. Throughout the hearing, Blanche maintained a steady demeanor, defending actions as aligned with legal obligations and administration goals. He highlighted efforts against waste and theft in federal programs, pointing to significant recoveries. Yet Padilla concluded by expressing doubts about the nominee's ability to place constitutional duties above other considerations, citing patterns in court interactions and policy implementation. The senator noted that accountability rests heavily on current leadership even before full confirmation. Such moments fuel wider conversations about the balance of power and expectations for the Justice Department moving forward. As details from the hearing continue to spread, reactions vary widely. Some see Padilla's approach as essential oversight, pressing for answers on issues affecting everyday Americans, from law enforcement standards to victim services. Others view it as partisan pressure on a qualified nominee with extensive experience. Online forums and news outlets have amplified clips, with discussions centering on what true independence looks like in practice. Speculation about confirmation